Welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of TVGP's Critical Misses, the show where we watch all the great stuff we missed, all the hits we've missed. First up, we're going to be watching...
Listen, read.
Yeah, you know, enjoy, experience. Because maybe enjoy won't always apply. Our first series that we're going to watch is the Fast and the Furious Fast and Furious series. I was going to say the
Saga.
Fast Saga, as it's now known.
Saga.
Yeah, which sounds much more grand racing plans.
Which,
we're gonna...
I mean... Go ahead. I'll let you do the intros, and then we need to get into this, because
we're going to start with 2001's The Fast and the Furious. As we talked about in episode 0, if you haven't gone and listened to that, that's the introduction of the whole series. Not the Fast Saga, but the Critical Misses Saga. Sort of our ethos around the show. I have only seen this movie, and only when it was released in theaters.
So you saw this movie for the very first time in 2001.
Yeah, 19 years ago, yes. And I have never seen it since, and I've never seen any of the other ones. So I'm kind of excited to watch this because, number one, I have fond-ish memories of the first one seeing in theaters, because it was like, all right, we're gonna go see the car racing movie. It's like street racing, it's gritty. It came out and was like, that was kind of dumb, but I kind of had fun. It's weird.
Very, very much of its time.
Yeah.
Friends of the show, the Bamfcast, have this rule where basically if you're making an 80s movie, you can still have 80s movies like a couple of years into the next decade. So like all the way up to like from 80, let's say 82 to 80 or to 92 is an 80s movie. From like 92 to 2002 is a 90s movie. This came out in 2001, and oh boy, is it 90s as hell.
Right.
Like, it's
still living right in the 90s.
So much in it. There is such of that time period. It's obviously we will discuss the later iterations of the franchise as we go forwards, and the effects, positive and negative, because spoiler alert, I'm kind of a pro on this series because I watch it every year.
And that's part of the reason why we wanted to choose this at the beginning, is because I have almost no experience in it, and you adore it. So like, I'm part of what I'm going to be charting in this series is how quickly it gets me to start saying, just screaming family into the microphone at the beginning and ends of this.
I was going to say, you at least know the key word when it comes to this series.
It's about family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seeing some other superfans' reactions to the latest trailer for the newest movie, which is out this summer.
Yeah, Fast
really
9?
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
We probably will mention it as we're going, but there are some really dumb titles in this series as we go forward. They've all kind of been retconned into just the Fast and the Furious number, but there are subtitles associated with them, which we'll get to when we see them.
Well, to be fair, one of the dumbest is we're going to start with the Fast and the Furious, and Fast and Furious is later, just dropping the out of there. So
that's the number. That's the fourth movie in the series. Weirdly enough.
After Tokyo Drift, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Tokyo Drift is 3.
I'm very excited to watch Tokyo Drift.
It's Tokyo Drift. The funny thing is like, I think this series is underrated, but you have to go into it with an open mind. Like, it's like John Wick. John Wick is an absolutely amazing action movie. The plot for it is paper thin. It doesn't have a story. You watch John Wick to watch Keanu Reeves kick the evil of hell out of 50,000 people to get to his target. Like, that's what you watch John Wick for.
You had to have the right expectations going in.
Yes. And I would actually say for this series, for this movie in particular, go in with an open mind. Understand that it was that time period. And when the superstar song scene comes on, embrace it, because it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, just because...
Just let it wash over you.
It's new metal as hell, and as a kid who, at the time, I was just developing my new metal senses.
Oh, yeah, man, 2001, like, ooh, that was the new metal time. Like, oh, give me some Korn, give me some Limp Bizkit, Trapped, like, let's put all that stuff in there.
this is 100% in that thing. Like, take the first one for what it is, which is just a dumb, stupid. It's Point Break with cars. Like Point Break
has the thinnest plot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And there'll be things that we pick up along the way. There's obviously an overarching storyline. How we get there is a mystery to everybody how they managed to wrap this thing back around. A quick question though: how do you feel about cars? Are you a car man?
No, I feel like that's why I was never interested in this movie when it came out, because when it was released, it was pushed so much about like, God, look at these cars, look at these cool streets, and like I've never been, when we were growing up, like all over the world, when you're a teenager, suddenly a bunch of your friends have like in their posters of high school, in their lockers of high school, they have like that poster of like a Porsche 911, and they have this thing, and it's just like all these cars, and they're like, yeah, man, I love car. Look at this car. And
yours was an anime girl.
No, I never like I can understand why people are so drawn to sports cars, but for me, it's always been this thing. I was like, that's a car. It's yellow, like it looks fast. It has some cool angles, but I've never been a car dude.
I'm when it comes to cars, I like two things. I don't care about the mechanics. I couldn't change a tire if you asked me to, because I've never had to.
We're millennials, so like we don't have that skill.
Exactly. But when it comes to the aesthetics of a car, and when it comes to the sound of a car, like it's one of those things. It's probably through playing video games is where I got there from, where you just like, this car, just the shape is really well done. It looks amazing. It's a really it's a vivid standout design to look at. Mm-hmm. And then the sound, which depending on the type of car you're dealing with, it depends on the type of sound you make. Now, fun fact, like you and probably the audience also knows, in this household, my wife and I are on some fairly specific divided lines.
Okay.
I'm an Iron Man guy. She's a Captain America person. Right. I like Ashley. She likes Caden. That's a Mass Effect reference for everybody who listening.
Right.
She loves muscle cars. I love imports.
Aha. So okay.
There's another one of those dividing lines.
I love that there's so many things where you're just like shooting each other across a river, where it's like muscle cars, imports. It's just like I like it. I respect it.
And there are things I love about muscle cars. There are generally things I do love about them. But the thing that's always put me off them is they can't turn for anything. They have a turning radius that's about 4 times as long as they are. And they're long. Right. So this series has always been hilarious because it's literally the two main characters are muscle cars and imports. So it has that whole thing going on with it as well. I love this movie. I love how dumb it starts, and obviously we'll get into it later on. But how they loop back around to actually make stuff matter from the first, let's just say the first 4 movies, is insane.
To like to wrap it into the overarching story they're telling in the saga.
Yes,
okay, interesting.
You watch the first one is pretty good. The second one is probably one of my least favorite ones.
Okay.
So get ready for a downslope before we get an upslope.
Highest highs, lowest lows. Let's just get them done
the record,
one after another.
So you've got to go into the first lot with an open mind of it doesn't matter right now. Pay attention, but most of it doesn't matter. It's just a dumb, goofy action
look at the underlights, look at the nitrous, enjoy the racing.
Underglow, thank you very much.
Okay,
let's get that terminology correct here.
Okay. See, I got a lot to learn.
Yes, we do. But it's seeing how they took this thing and just retconned everything, because we'll get to it, but this series was basically dead on its feet. At one point, it was done. And then the worst of the lot of them made the most money, so they made another one. It's ridiculous how this goes. But we'll have different directors, we'll have different things. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Like, for example, the first movie is directed by Rob Cohen, who is a relatively famous director of really bad movies like Dragonheart and Stealth and things like that.
Bad movies that I sort of enjoy.
Exactly. So I'm hoping, going forwards, we can embrace the bad until we get to the good.
Right. And I'm willing to take a journey. You know, I as much as people love this series so much that you can't help but be at least curious about it. Where it's like, God, what do you? People are like, it's dumb, and I love it. And it's like, boy, I respect. Number one, I respect that attitude. Number two, I gotta watch those, which is why we're here.
And honestly, if you're a giant Bond fan as well, like I don't do it obviously the first time you've seen it, especially you, Boston. But if you're interested in taking this journey with us, the Bombcast actually did a film on 40s for Fast 1 through 6 or 1 through 7, shortly before 8 came out, because Dan Reichert had never seen this series either.
Okay, interesting.
So they jumped in with him and did a full film on 40s with a lot of it, and it's a journey to go for that one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love these movies. I am unabashedly a family member, and I adore it.
There you go. All right, well, that's our beginning here, so let's go watch the movie. We're back. We have seen the movie. We have hopefully enjoyed it. I remembered my favorite line from this movie, which is, "More than you can afford, pal. Ferrari. Vroom."
Yep, the superstar scene. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
Just so dumb.
Fun fact, I watched this twice this week.
Oh, okay. I only watched it the once, but I think my takeaway from the movie is I remembered so little of it. But I think this isn't a bad movie, and it's not a great movie.
Nope. This is your middle-of-the-road summer blockbuster kind of movie.
Yeah, it's like a solid 5 out of 10. Like, it's fun. It's definitely largely watchable. And pretty enjoyable.
Yep.
But, like,
the soundtrack included, like, I love how 90s the soundtrack is.
Part of what I like about the soundtrack, and I made a note about this, is I love that there's some scenes where there's, like, in the span of, like, 2 minutes, there's, like, 5 licensed songs
the
playing.
very, very beginning, the meetup, and it goes from hip-hop to R&B to hardcore EDM, then Roland's in there as well by Limp Bizkit, and then something else.
And it's just like, and what's so funny is like there's so much music in some of these parts, and then some action scenes, it's silent. Like it is just cars and an 18-wheeler. All about the engines. Yep. I do have to say, cars driving under 18-wheelers, still dope. That's still super cool.
Super cool.
I like that the movie like opens with it and like doesn't make it. Part of the thing that I think is frustrating to me in this first movie is there's so much cool stunt work and there's so much cool car action that the movie almost kind of ignores. Like in the intro, the car drives under the 18-wheeler and it's just kind of like, hey, I have 5 seconds, whatever, and we're moving on to something else. It's like, no, man, that's pretty cool. Like the first time Vin Diesel fires up the muscle car, he like hops in it, fires it up, and drives out of the driveway. It's like, no, like this is kind of a moment. Like, let's make this into a thing.
Yeah, the only thing you get from that, the only quote unquote moment on that, is when he jumps in, and it just zooms in on the intake on the bonnet.
Yeah,
and it's just as it revs, you just see the air thing just go, and it sucks in oxygen. It's just like, okay.
That leads to one of my favorite dumb / amazing parts in this movie, which is
the bike chase through LA.
One, it's like at the very end, right before the drag race between the two of them, and it's just like there's this high speed chase through LA, and then all of a sudden Vin Diesel is stopped at a red light.
Yep.
And then Paul Walker is next to him, and Vin Diesel's like, I used to race here all the time in high school. And it's like, what are you what is happening right now? And then there's like this slow motion traveling through time, like close-up shot of the two of them. It's just, it's all over the place.
I love how it kind of continues throughout the entirety of the series. I think Alex Navarro put it best. anytime anyone uses NOS in this series, they go into hyperspace.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just that stretched out kind of thing where it just stretches a couple of frames, and then everybody's suddenly like, "Wah!"
Yeah. God, I think the weirdest part about this movie is that there's so much in it too. Like there's a fairly lengthy storyline, and there's a ton of characters and
a ton of side characters who don't even really matter at the end.
Yeah, like the bike gang's leader's brother, who's in like a scene.
The snakeskin pants.
Yeah, snakeskin pants. It's just like, it's just like, where did you go? And
that's Johnny Tran, by the way.
Johnny Tran, that's right.
The leader of that gang. He's the one who rocks with the Honda 2000.
Yes.
Who wipes the floor with Jesse.
Jesse's
Poor
Jetta.
Jesse.
Yeah. Poor Jesse. There's just... I don't even know where to start with half of the stuff in this movie because there's so much of it, and I think so much of it kind of doesn't matter a lot. And
in the grand scheme of things, like basically only 4 things matter in this movie, and that's Paul Walker.
Yep.
So Brian Spillner.
Yes.
Vin Diesel. Dominic Toretto.
Yeah.
Mia Toretto, his sister.
Yep.
And Rihanna Brewster. Sorry, that's Mia Toretto. And angry girl who's in everything, and she's always angry.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Thank you.
I didn't remember how much of a crush I have on her until I saw this movie, and I was like, yep, hi, hello.
It's also one of the few sightings of New Rocks in movies. Right around the time I bought my first set of New Rock boots. She is rocking the New Rocks in this. Also, everyone is a baby.
Yeah, like everyone is a super baby. And I think one of the funniest parts in this movie is, I think one of the big things that it's hard to forget about this movie is Paul Walker is a cop.
And, are you a cop?
Right.
Are you a cop? Boston, are you a cop?
No. I owed you a 10-second car, Moon. One of the funniest scenes is like him getting fake arrested and then bringing to this like palatial Hollywood manse.
Yeah, the drug mansions.
And like people taking like 5-year-old Paul Walker seriously as a police officer. Like it's just this idea of like, you get me results, O'Connor. It's just like, this kid's he can't even drive. Look at how tiny he is.
That's the big thing with it, is because this movie does so much good storytelling without telling the story. And it's the thing I love in great sci-fi movies. Like, who knows what the condition of the Earth is in Alien? It doesn't matter. The important thing that matters is there's a giant corporation that's doing space shipping, whatever.
Right.
Who cares? The thing that this does really well is like this sets him up as clearly he's kind of a rookie, not necessarily a 100% rookie,
right?
But he's new, and even the leader of the FBI says to him, "You want that detective badge?
Yep.
You want it quick? We can help you with that.
Get me results."
It's clear that he's got a target in mind, and he's clearly done well. Like, he's clearly a pretty apt student. Otherwise they wouldn't be, and he's clearly a pretty good driver. Otherwise they wouldn't be putting him in with these street gangs who are all about street racing.
Right.
And it's like, okay, we get it. He's kind of young. He wants to be a detective. He's still not there yet, so they put him undercover, and this is his chance to become a detective.
Right.
Like, this is his big shot, so to speak.
Right.
God.
And it's interesting that the FBI very clearly have fingered Toretto really early, where it's like, this guy's got anger problems. Something's happening. He's a great driver. We kind of don't like him. It's Toretto. And I feel like if the movie had a little bit better direction or a little bit better acting or like a slightly different screenplay, I think the tug of war between I want my detective's badge and I want to do the right thing for the law versus I like this crew and I like this like found family that I'm starting to enter into. I feel like there could be a better push and pull between those, but it's always kind of in the background. I feel like that's kind of the bummer of this movie.
And I actually hate to say this, but this is 100% a Vin Diesel movie. Like, Paul Walker's good, but this movie is about Vin Diesel, and excellent execution, not Bret the Hitman Hart, but excellent execution of the anti-hero.
Yes.
He is a villain. He is a bad guy by definition.
When he
is
steps
a bad guy.
out from that darkness and there's just like that one light on him when that guy has the shotgun on Paul Walker's face, and I'm just like, all right, like you're doing a real good job at setting up like he's an okay dude, but also you really don't want to mess with him.
He is breaking the law. He is stealing stuff. He is very clearly into some illegal stuff.
Yeah.
But you like him because he's got some principles. And he did time, but he did time for a 100% valid reason in most people's eyes.
Right.
Like,
family.
It's Pitch Black all over again. Pitch Black, he was an excellent anti-hero in that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, clearly, Vin Diesel, we have your role. This is what you're destined to be forever.
And it's funny that he's not a great actor through most of the movie, but you can kind of see it shine every once in a while where it's like some
that interrogation scene is him being really sinister, and he nails that intensity in that scene. And then you get all the stuff where he's trying to crack jokes, like at the start.
Or it'll be like, "I'll see you at Race Wars." It's like, stop saying Race Wars. It's the dumbest name.
It's a dumb name, and number two, in 2020, it's a little unfortunate.
That's true. Vin Diesel, it means something very different now.
It really does. I mean, there's so many scenes I love about this, and you mentioned it there a little bit in passing. I didn't catch this. In all of the other times I've seen these movies, I never caught this line. But his LA detective, like boss captain guy, the guy who was Buffalo Bill in...
the guy with the comb over?
Yeah, he was Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs.
Right.
He says to him, there are all different kinds of family.
Yep.
Brian, you're going to have to make that choice yourself at some point.
Yep.
It's like... You mother effers, how did you get that?
Right.
To one line from the very first movie somehow became the theme for this entire series.
And that guy was pretty good in that role too. Like, he didn't have a lot of heavy lifting to do, but I feel like he sold that role. Like
the weary captain kind of guy.
Yeah, like the FBI was the angry, like, get me results, O'Connor, like that sort of guy. But I liked that guy where it's sort of like, we've got a job to do, and I get you. Like, I get that you're getting a little too deep into this, and you maybe are going native, as he calls it. But, like, we still have a job to do, man, and I'm tired.
He also clearly cares about his employees, because there's a whole scene where... And it's a useless scene, and it doesn't belong anywhere, but Brian's like, someone get me a smoke.
Yes.
And then the captain's like, no, you quit.
Right. Get him
someone
a smoke.
Get me a smoke. No. You quit.
Yeah.
I thought you quit. You're still quitting. Nobody get this man a smoke.
There's so much in this movie.
Why does that scene, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. That's just a little touch of, a little sprinkle of salt on the characters there. A little flavouring to go with it.
Yeah.
But all told, I mean, like you said, it's if you are looking at this movie from a critical perspective, this is a 5 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
It's very average.
But it's got heart.
So here is my challenge for you, and I thought about this today. You're going to have to do what everybody does. They do it with Star Wars, they do it with Star Trek, they do it with Marvel, they do it with Fast.
Okay.
You're going to have to order these in the way you enjoy them the most.
Okay, I will have to start making a list as we're going
to have to science
stuff.
this at some point, by the way.
I, of anybody, love science. You say we're going to rank stuff, I say how high. Wait, what?
So,
but yes, I will. So far, 1 out of 1, thumbs up the Fast and Furious.
Okay. I love this movie. It's bad. It's a bad movie.
Yeah, it's certainly not the worst movie I've ever seen.
No, that comes in 3 movies' time.
That is Monkey Bone. Something has to be really terrible to beat Monkey Bone.
Yes.
But I think it's one of those movies where you finish it and you go, okay, like I didn't waste my time. It wasn't the best thing. It's not one of those things where it's like, everyone needs to see this movie. It's just sort of like, all right, yeah, okay, cool. I spent like an hour and 45 minutes. All right.
And I will be honest, that's where I was after seeing this movie originally, and then going back to it multiple times again and again and again. It very much comes across as that this is a cool one-off.
Yeah. That was a cool movie we made. See you later.
Spawn any sequels.
Right. Yeah, when like they announced the second one, which we'll be watching next, Too Fast, Too Furious, Too Fast for Y'all. it was very much like, oh, really? Are you are you sure?
And it got even better because at that point they were like, oh, and Vin Diesel's not in it.
Right, and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, you're making some choices.
Really?
Sure, all right, maybe we don't need to. Maybe
But
we're
don't
okay.
worry. The pitch black connection continues, but we'll get into that on that episode.
All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to Season 1, Episode 1, where we revisited The Fast and the Furious. And Episode 2 will cover Too Fast, Too Furious. So tune in 2 weeks. A lot of twos here. For the next episode, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.